Welcome to today's deep dive, where we are going to be looking at plant intelligence.
Oh, yeah.
We've got some excerpts from Zoë Schlanger's book, The Light Eaters.
Mm.
And this book is packed with mind-blowing insights into how plants behave.
Right.
So get ready for a wild ride because we're going to be uncovering a world of communication, manipulation, and maybe even memory.
Oh.
All happening right under our noses.
It's true. Plants are far more complex than I think we give them credit for.
Yeah.
You know, for centuries, we've kind of categorized them as just passive life forms, just kind of sitting there soaking up the sun.
Right.
But recent research has revealed a whole other side to them.
Yeah.
And it challenges our very definition of intelligence.
And Schlanger jumps right into it.
Okay.
She starts with this story about a tree of heaven growing on her stoop in New York City.
Oh, wow.
And this tree is considered an invasive species.
Right.
And get this, she observed it injecting toxins into the ground, basically sabotaging its plant neighbors to hog all the sunlight.
Wow.
Like a plant version of a turf war.
Yeah. This anecdote really highlights how much we've underestimated plants.
Right.
And she goes on to describe this almost all-out war happening within the scientific community
Oh, wow.
about whether or not it's even accurate to call what plants do intelligence.
Yeah. Some scientists are firmly in the no way camp,
Okay.
arguing that intelligence requires a brain,
Mm-hmm.
a nervous system, the whole shebang.
Yeah.
But other scientists are pushing back, saying, hold on a second. What if we're limiting ourselves by defining intelligence based on our own human model?
That's the crux of the debate.
Yeah.
If we only recognize intelligence in forms that mirror our own, are we missing out on a whole spectrum of intelligent life out there?
Yeah.
It's like trying to judge a fish on its ability to climb a tree.
Right, which leads to a really interesting point Schlanger makes.
Okay.
She compares this current shift in how we understand plants to a similar revolution that happened with animal cognition
Oh, interesting.
not too long ago. It was widely accepted that animals couldn't feel pain.
And think about how that's changed.
Right.
Now, animal welfare is a huge focus,
Totally.
both scientifically and ethically.
Yeah.
What's fascinating is that Schlanger suggests a similar paradigm shift could be happening with plants.
Okay, paradigm shift. I remember that term from my philosophy class.
Okay.
Something about how big changes in thinking can really shake things up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's about challenging existing assumptions and embracing new ways of seeing the world.
Gotcha.
Schlanger uses the work of Thomas Kuhn,
Okay.
a philosopher of science, to
Yeah.
kind of explain this.
Yeah.
Kuhn argued that scientific progress isn't a smooth, gradual process.
Right.
Instead, it happens in these sudden bursts,
Yeah.
these paradigm shifts
Uh-huh.
that often meet a lot of resistance at first.
Kind of like how people freaked out when Copernicus said that the Earth revolves around the sun, not the other way around.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And just as the acceptance of animal sentience was a major paradigm shift,
Yeah.
the concept of plant intelligence is causing a similar stir in the scientific community.
So how do we even begin to approach this idea of plant intelligence?
Right.
I mean, where do we even start?
Yeah.
Well, Schlanger dives into some amazing research on plant communication.
Cool.
And one name that keeps popping up is Rick Carbon.
Carbon's a pioneer in the field of plant communication.
Right.
He's been studying sagebrush for decades and has made some groundbreaking discoveries about how they communicate with each other.
Okay.
Specifically, he found that they use chemical signals to warn their neighbors about danger.
Wait, so plants can send out SOS messages.
They can.
How does that even work?
It's all about chemicals.
Okay.
When a sagebrush plant is attacked, let's say by an insect,
Yeah.
it releases these certain volatile compounds into the air.
Yeah.
These compounds act as like an alarm signal,
Right.
alerting nearby sagebrush plants to the threat.
So then what? Do they start building little plant fortresses or something?
Well, not quite, but they do take defensive measures.
Yeah.
The neighboring plants, upon receiving this chemical warning,
Right.
start producing their own defensive compounds, making themselves less appealing to the attacking insects.
Wow.
So it's like they're saying, hey, we're ready for you.
That's incredible. It's like a silent alarm system.
It is.
But what really blew my mind was that Carbon discovered that sagebrush can actually adjust their communication strategies based on the level of threat.
Wow.
It's not just a one-size-fits-all alarm call.
It's true.
Right.
They're surprisingly strategic.
Yeah.
When the danger is localized, they use very specific chemical signals, almost like a whisper to their closest relatives.
Oh, wow.
But when the threat is widespread, they switch to a more general alarm signal,
Okay.
like a loud shout that everyone can understand.
So they're not just reacting instinctively.
Right.
They're actually assessing the situation
Yeah,
and choosing the best communication strategy.
it's really incredible.
It's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Makes you wonder what else they're capable of.
And that's just the tip of the iceberg.
Gotcha.
We haven't even touched on the research showing how plants can manipulate insects, possibly even exhibit memory, and the whole mind-boggling world of plant senses.
Okay, I'm hooked.
All right.
Let's dive deeper into this rabbit hole.
Speaking of manipulation, Schlanger talks about this fascinating research by Consuelo de Moras.
Okay.
Have you ever seen bumblebees buzzing around flowers and they're like biting the leaves?
Actually, yeah, I have. I always thought they were just being aggressive or something.
Well, the de Moras discovered that there's a much more interesting explanation.
Okay.
Turns out those bumblebees aren't being aggressive, they're actually communicating with the plant. When bumblebees are starving and they can't find enough pollen,
Right.
they'll bite the leaves of certain plants, like black mustard.
And what happens? Does the plant fight back?
Not exactly. This biting triggers the plant to do something incredible.
Okay.
It accelerates its flowering process.
Wow.
So instead of waiting for its normal flowering time,
Right.
the plant rushes to produce flowers, providing the hungry bees with the pollen they desperately need.
So the bees were basically like placing a rush order for pollen.
Right.
That's wild. But how does the plant even know what the bee wants?
That's the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
De Moras' research suggests that the plant is somehow sensing the bee's saliva and interpreting it as like a signal of urgency.
Wow.
It's a remarkable example of interspecies communication
Yeah.
and a clear sign that plants are much more attuned to their environment than we often realize.
This whole idea of plant communication is really making me rethink how I view the natural world.
Right?
It's like this whole secret conversation is going on all around us,
Yeah.
and we're just starting to kind of eavesdrop on it.
And it gets even more complex when you start to consider the possibility of plant memory.
Okay.
Schlanger discusses a study on this fascinating flower called Nasa poisoniana.
All right.
Now, this flower has a unique trick up its sleeve.
Okay.
It seems to be able to remember when pollinators have visited in the past.
Hold on. Plants can remember things. I thought memory was something only animals with brains could do.
That's what makes this research so intriguing.
Yeah.
Scientists observe that Nasa poisoniana adjusts how much pollen it presents based on the time intervals between pollinator visits.
So if a pollinator visited recently, the flower will offer up less pollen.
Exactly.
But if it's been a while, it'll offer more.
Right.
Almost like it's trying to maximize its chances of reproduction.
It is.
That's amazing. But how could a plant possibly track time and adjust its behavior accordingly without some form of memory?
It's a question that's pushing the boundaries of our understanding of plant intelligence.
Right.
Some scientists argue that what appears to be memory could just be a complex series of pre-programmed responses.
Okay.
But others believe that this behavior suggests a more dynamic form of learning and adaptation
Yeah.
that might actually qualify as a form of memory.
So we've got communication, maybe even memory. What about senses?
Right.
I mean, plants can obviously sense light, but can they sense other things like touch or sound?
Schlanger dives into this fascinating world of plant senses.
Yeah.
She describes the work of Mordecai Jaffe, who discovered that plants respond to touch in remarkable ways. Even gentle stroking can significantly alter a plant's growth patterns.
So you're telling me that something as simple as a touch can impact a plant's entire development?
Exactly.
Wow.
It triggers a cascade of hormonal and genetic changes within the plant. And it's not just touch.
Yeah.
Schlanger also highlights research by Heidi Apple and Rex Cockcroft,
Okay.
who found that plants can actually respond to sound.
Wait, plants can hear.
But-
They have tiny little plant ears hidden somewhere?
Not quite ears,
Okay.
but they are incredibly sensitive to vibrations.
Okay.
Appel and Cockcroft discovered that plants can distinguish between the vibrations caused by a gentle breeze
Right.
and the vibrations caused by a caterpillar munching on their leaves.
That's insane. So they can tell the difference between like a friend and a foe just by the vibrations they create.
Precisely. And when they sense the vibrations of a caterpillar attack, they ramp up their defenses,
Wow.
producing chemicals that make their leaves less tasty to the hungry insects.
So it's like they're listening for danger and preparing themselves for battle.
Exactly.
Okay, that's seriously blowing my mind. But what about other senses?
Right.
Schlanger mentions some research suggesting that plants might even be able to communicate through ultrasonic clicks,
Oh, wow.
which sounds too high for humans to hear.
It's cutting-edge research, But it's definitely intriguing.
Yeah.
A scientist named Lilac Haddani is leading the charge on this.
Okay.
She believes that these ultrasonic clicks could carry information about the plant's condition, kind of like a plant version of Morse code.
So imagine a whole forest of trees communicating through these silent clicks, sharing information about water sources, nutrient availability, potential threats.
Right.
That's like a whole secret world we're just beginning to glimpse.
And it makes you wonder what other senses plants might have that we haven't even discovered yet. This leads to a concept Schlanger introduces called the holobiont.
Okay, holobiont, that sounds a bit intimidating.
Yeah.
What exactly does that mean?
Think of it this way.
Yeah.
We often think of plants as individual organisms,
Right.
but the holobiont concept suggests that we need to broaden our perspective.
Okay.
It's not just the plant itself, but the whole community of life it supports.
So you're talking about the bacteria, the fungi, all the tiny creatures living on and within the plant.
Exactly. All these organisms are interacting and influencing each other,
Okay.
forming this complex, interconnected network.
Mm-hmm.
And this network, this holobiont, functions as like a single ecological unit.
So it's not just the plant itself that determines its traits and behaviors, but this whole community of life it's a part of.
Exactly. Schlanger gives a few mind-blowing examples.
Okay.
Like, did you know that the sweetness of a tomato can be influenced by the types of fungi living in its roots?
No way. I thought tomato sweetness was all about genetics.
It's more complicated than that. It turns out that the microbes living in and around a plant can have a huge impact on its flavor, its growth, even its ability to resist disease.
So it's not just about the plant itself, it's about the whole ecosystem it's a part of.
Exactly.
That's a pretty profound shift in perspective.
It is, and it has some pretty major implications for how we understand plant intelligence.
Right.
Because if we're talking about a holobiont,
Uh-huh.
then intelligence might not reside solely within the plant itself, but
Yeah.
within this complex network of interactions between the plant and its microbial partners.
Okay, my brain is officially doing backflips trying to wrap my head around all this,
Yeah.
but I'm loving it. What else does Schlanger have in store for us? You know, we've been talking about all these amazing things that plants can do, communicate, maybe even remember.
Yeah.
But what about that Bokila vine we touched on earlier?
Right.
The one that could mimic the leaves of its neighbors?
Yeah.
That's got to be one of the most mind-boggling examples of plant adaptation out there.
It really is. It's a remarkable phenomenon.
Yeah.
Schlanger describes how this vine can change the shape, the size, color, even the texture of its leaves to match the plants around it.
Wow.
It's like a chameleon of the plant world.
And it doesn't just mimic one specific type of plant, right?
No.
It can adapt to all sorts of different neighbors.
Exactly. Scientists have observed Bokila mimicking plants from completely different families,
Wow.
even plants that originated in other parts of the world.
That's crazy.
Which begs the question, how on earth does it do it?
Right. Is it actually seeing the leaves it's trying to mimic?
Baby.
Schlanger mentioned some pretty wild theories about plant vision.
She does. She talks about the work of František Belukka,
Okay.
who believes that plants might have simple eyes,
Really?
called ocelli,
Okay.
within their leaves.
And how does that work?
He points to the fact that some cells on the surface of leaves lack chloroplasts, which are the structures that plants use for photosynthesis.
So if those cells aren't capturing light for energy, what are they doing?
Belukka thinks they could be playing a role in light perception,
Wow.
allowing the plant to sense its surroundings in ways we don't fully understand.
So is there any evidence to support that?
Well, this idea of plant vision,
Yes.
as far-fetched as it might sound,
Right.
is actually supported by the discovery of camera-like eyes in ancient cyanobacteria,
Oh, wow.
which are like the ancestors of modern plants.
So maybe plants have retained this ancient form of vision, allowing them to perceive their environment in ways we're only just beginning to grasp. It's mind-blowing to think about the possibilities.
It really is.
But is that how the Bokila is doing it? Is that what the research shows?
Well, the mechanism behind Bokila's mimicry is still a mystery.
Okay.
Some scientists believe that microbes could play a role,
Oh, interesting.
with bacteria or fungi transferring genetic information from the host plant to the Bokila,
Okay.
triggering the transformation in the leaf appearance.
So it could be a combination of factors.
It's possible.
Maybe the Bokila using some form of simple vision to detect its neighbors, and then microbes are helping it fine-tune its mimicry.
That's certainly a possibility.
It's fascinating.
And Schlanger acknowledges that we're still in the early stages of understanding this phenomenon.
Yeah?
She describes visiting a Chilean rainforest with Ernesto Giannoli, the scientist who first discovered Boquila's mimicry.
Oh, wow.
And even he admits that we don't have all the answers yet.
That's what makes this research so exciting, right? It's pushing the boundaries of our knowledge and forcing us to reconsider what we thought we knew about plants.
Absolutely. And it highlights the importance of staying open-minded,
Yeah.
of being willing to challenge our assumptions and embrace new ways of seeing the world.
It seems like we have so much more to learn.
We do.
Schlanger argues that our human-centric perspective has often blinded us to the wonders of the plant world.
It's true. We've been so focused on what separates us from plants that we've failed to appreciate the incredible intelligence and complexity they possess.
And as we learn more about plant intelligence, it raises some profound questions about our ethical responsibilities toward them.
It does.
Schlanger discusses the growing movement to grant legal rights to nature.
Right.
Recognizing the inherent value of all living beings, it's a radical idea,
It is.
but one that's gaining traction as our understanding of plant intelligence grows.
Wow.
If plants are capable of such complex behavior, if they can communicate, learn, maybe even remember, shouldn't we treat them with more respect and consideration?
It's a question worth pondering.
Yeah.
Schlanger challenges us to rethink our relationship with plants,
Right.
to see them not just as resources to be exploited,
Yeah.
but as intelligent beings deserving of our admiration and protection.
Well, this deep dive has definitely given me a whole new perspective on the plants in my life. I'm looking at them with a sense of wonder and respect I didn't have before.
It's amazing how a shift in perspective can change our entire understanding of the world around us.
Yeah.
And who knows what other incredible discoveries await us as we continue to explore the mysteries of plant intelligence.
Well, that's all the time we have for today's deep dive.
Okay.
We hope you've enjoyed this journey into the fascinating world of plant intelligence.
And we encourage you to continue exploring,
Right?
keep asking questions,
Yeah.
and always be open to the wonders that nature has to offer.
Thanks for joining us, and until next time, keep learning.